Hello, my name is Gisela Pink, and I'm here with my co-host Julia Lisk. Welcome to Intimate Leadership.
This episode is sponsored by Western Hall Hotel. Thank you for listening. Please support us by subscribing to our Intimate Leadership channel using the link below.
We're here today with Sandra Godley. Sandra, I'm so delighted to have you.
Oh, the pleasure's mine. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Sandra Godley, OBE. She was born in Bristol to Jamaican parents and began her musical journey at the age of 12. But the main accolade is the OBE.
Wowzers.
It is a wow.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
I believe
gosh.
you met King Charles.
Yes, yeah.
So you've done a lot of work for humanitarian works, created the choir for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding. You're an active person in charities, including At a Loss. You've actually hosted the TV shows and roundtable discussions for TBN and Mercy Ship. You live by love, purpose, and just get on with it. Shall we get on with it?
Let's get on with it. When we did our preparation conversation, I was genuinely very moved by you sharing about your story about coming from Jamaica, but the thing that inspired me the most was you sharing about the parties in your house. Those, no, but you know, that as a foundation for the inspiration that came after. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what was the experience of being there in one of those parties, multicultural, multi-friendly, where there was no skin color, just sharing the food, sharing the dance, sharing the music.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for asking, because I don't normally talk about that side of things. So this really is about being intimate. But I guess I still have a picture in my mind. I can see it now. My dad and my mum dancing in the living room. We had a through lounge. We were very posh back then. And that might make some people laugh. But most people had like a wall, you walk into the living room and then there's a wall, there's a dining room. But we had a through lounge, which meant we could have things like parties. And I still got the picture in my mind right now of my dad. He had brown trousers on, white shirt, and my mum had a jewellery dangling from her ear. She just loved jewellery, and a kind of black and white type dress. And they were dancing to something. And to look cool, my dad would just have his hand around my mum's waist and his other arm just hung down at the side of him. Too cool to put his two arms around her, but that's just the way they were. And they just kind of jived into this reggae music. And I remember being sitting on the stairs and listening to the laughter. Looking back at that picture, it actually included other people from different races, and that's what my dad and mum were like. They just encapsulated diversity, and so there were Asian people there, Irish white people there, and Jamaicans all stuffed into this room dancing to reggae music and having a drink or two. Yeah, a beautiful memory.
I heard you before say that kind of inspired you to start singing and start dancing. You grew up in that knowledge that we were all together. There's no skin color. There's no origin or gender or ethnicity. And then you went back to Jamaica. And from your conversation, you mentioned you were quite shocked to find out that everyone there was black.
Yeah, it's a total shock because I was born in Bristol, and when I was around 8, my father lost his job. He drove buses, double-decker buses, and so we lived there, and so it was a very diverse city, and it still is, of course. But they decided once he'd lost his bus driving job to go back home, and off we went. It was fun and exciting. That was what we thought, going to this hot country, and off we went.
With all the family, and local friends and the aunties and the,
who were all going to look
inclusion.
after me and plait my hair and do all this, this stuff. And so I was looking forward to it. And when I got there, I just remember coming off the plane and listening to this noise, thinking, what is that? It was sort of the night crickets clicking away. And then the heat hits you as the plane door opens, and it's like putting your head in an oven. So already out of culture, but it's still exciting. We were 8 and my brother was 6, so he just went along with it all. But it was that drive to where we were going to stay for that first few nights that just really hit me. It was hot in this van, really rough roads, and I thought we were going to like a big 2-story house or something. They parked up and there was like a ditch we had to walk across into a house with one light, and it was quite late at night, and I could still hear these crickets, but other noises as well. So there were, I don't know, roosters doing things late at night. I could hear that noise, could hear cows mooing and all sorts, and it just was a total, just so strange. Got into this house which was made of zinc. and thinking, what is this? And it was one of the family relatives that decided to take us in that first night, and slept in what I wasn't used to, this sort of bare room, and we all crammed together. And the following day, waking up thinking, okay, well, so that's okay. So I've seen these kind of pictures vaguely, and walking out on the streets, because they said, go and have a, mum, dad said, go and have a little walk around and whatever. And I couldn't see any other cultures there. Thinking, everybody's black, every one of them, all lovely. I was looking for a Chinese person, a white person, an Asian person. And to my little 8-year-old brain, it did not compute. I think I struggled with it. I really did. But I was really shocked and went back into mum and said, Mum, what is this? She said, you'll be all right, Brad, you'll be all right. And that in a sort of accent. And then the first thing we wanted was breakfast. I remember that first morning, my brother and I, Andy, and mum was preparing something that she'd previously cooked from years ago, because of course she'd not been in Jamaica for a while, so she was trying to remember, the Jamaican. She's trying to impress everybody that she remembered all these
that
Jamaican.
She was still Jamaican.
Yeah, I was still Jamaican. I'm thinking, what are you doing, Mum? But there was nothing we wanted. It was plantain, it was dumplings, a whole host of Jamaican stuff which we weren't that used to. And said, Mum, where's the cornflakes? And just to round this little bit of the story up, my mum with Dad got in the car and they went to about 5 different supermarkets to find cornflakes, and they found,
to make
they
you feel at home.
Yeah, and a big box of cornflakes arrived, and I was like, this is good.
Yeah. So you came back to the UK, and you then joined the church.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to find out, what was it like for you? Because once you're back and you join a new community, and what was that like for you? I think you were 12 or thereabouts.
So we went, of course, I've just mentioned we went to Jamaica because Dad had lost his job. Some Jamaicans treated them as if to say, you left us, you went, but they went, on the Windrush journey to go and make some money and make a better life. So anyway, returning back to the UK was what we decided to do, because Jamaica wasn't the way they left it. And yes, my faith had kind of been something that had been drilled into me, encouraged in me by my parents, because even when I was in Jamaica, there's a little church down the road that was doing all sorts of things, hand clapping, tambourine bashing, but the music was great, so I got into that. So coming back to England, I kind of had to make my own decision about faith and what that meant to me. Decided that being a Christian made sense, and for me there's some deep-rooted issues that I needed to come to terms with, and that was about being loved. And I found that kind of sacredness and that kind of reality in my faith, and being very honest and open. And so all the songs that I've written after that time are literally about life, and I kind of hope that people don't see my faith as a barrier, but just see it as something inviting, and just thinking, wow, at least she's real. It is. And many people can say that faith is like a crutch, and I'm thinking, well, actually it is. There's a bit of negativity around that, but
it's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. You make the choice to believe.
Absolutely. And it's a journey as well, so it's an invitation for a journey. So it's not that, okay, I'll become a Christian and that's it, I'm going to heaven. Every day has to be lived through. Every connection, every friendship that I have, with you ladies, hopefully at a point where we just think, actually, we like each other.
So you were sharing about discovering a conversation about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
That inspired you also into writing. Could you share a little bit about that?
So when we were in England, I started to understand what faith was, even at that age, and got involved with loads of young people who were all asking the same kind of questions. And I kind of thought that music was a great way to channel a way that I wanted to speak and express myself. And that's when I started to get my guitar out and started to write about what I could see, and also help people interpret what they're going through. So at that age, it's identity. I can remember that, thinking, who am I, what am I going to do with my life?
It's funny. For you, it's music. For me, it's having this podcast.
Wow.
It's just an opportunity to express.
Yeah. And then the big thing was to collaborate. So you don't just keep it to yourself. You join somebody else, and giving that opportunity for someone to get into your space is a big thing, because you've got to deal with your pride and make sure you give your gift away in a really loving way. And so I'd collaborate with guitarists, and then I got into a band and use that vehicle to actually tour and do a whole load of stuff. So I was still doing churchy things, but outside of that, I was in the club singing, and there were hardly anybody at sort of age 18, 19 doing the kind of thing I was doing, mixing it up. But I loved it, because to me, spend your life wherever you want to go, and have fun.
So moving on the godly conversation.
Conversation.
See what I did there?
Very good, very good.
What influence has God had to do in your music?
Well, I've tried and tested so many times and tried to ignore what I think the deposit of who God is in me, and I've tried to push it to one side, but I think he's just there all the time, and I've tested it. I've had times where I didn't believe in God or anything that he exists that he represented, but it's in those times where, you know, life's tough and you've got big questions. I know when I lost my father to cancer, you know, those kind of big moments in life where there's loss and there's grief and there's a lack of hope. There's been this sort of small stream of hope and energy that's kind of kept me going. And it's not to be false, but there's been this quiet kind of confidence that I've got you. And so you believe these voices, and some people might call it intuition. I've learned to trust that voice, and often it's been the times when I've had some really, really hard times. So it's me. I'm a faith-filled woman, and I love it. And I spend time when people ask me about it, and I'm always talking about real stories, real experiences. It gives me that strength to write. And I hope that it communicates
that
on a
grounding.
level, that people think, she's real, she knows what it's like. Yeah.
My dad, he was a musician. He passed away a few years ago, and that was his way of communicating with God.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a theme within you about the royal family or the royal interest. Am I right?
Well, it's not something that was planned. It's just wow to look back at my life now and think that the royal family even would write back to me to say they support a project I did, which is this Gospelability choir idea, and that choir was a choir. The concept was to write a song to celebrate Harry and Meghan's wedding. And this is just how I am, I'll come up with an idea.
Yeah, let's get them a
and
present.
Those that happen to be walking by and listen have to listen, get caught out, and often get dragged to the table to help me make it happen. But the excitement of this particular project was just so captivating for so many people. So many people got involved with it. So the concept of let's have a song, and I'd already got a song, so let's get a choir.
Did you compose the song?
Yeah. When I talk about this story, I remember seeing Harry walking behind the coffin of his mum, as we all did, and everybody, it was just a heartbreaking moment. Yeah. So I wanted to reflect that moment, but also talk about the work that he does with disadvantaged people. So the song talks about that. It's the Big Love Song. That was the title of it. And what we decided to do was to create a choir of people that had physical and learning difficulties. Now, that's a challenge in itself, but we were going to go for it. And so we held auditions.
Yes, I saw the video online, and it's just very moving, and I invite everyone to watch it.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, how does one get an OBE?
So,
not that I'm interested personally, but
I don't know whether doing that had anything to do with it, because there were the whole core of people that helped me produce that. But obviously, it made a line in the sand, because a 30-minute documentary was made by the BBC tracking everything and talking to many of the singers, etc. And I got a letter from Prince Harry, to say thank you so much. And they were the choir were going to be performing on the One Show, the BBC One Show. So I don't know whether that was the first thing. I also was part of a trustee board, a radio station called Radio Plus, and we got a Queen's Award for the work that we did with young people who wanted to know how to do podcasts, do radio presenting, producing, but we also had another string to our bow. We sort of trained them in how to get a job in the industry, and for that we got a Queen's Award, which is great. So that was lovely. So maybe, I don't know, but certainly people have been watching, a panel of people that discuss you, and I do know that sometimes it can take years. When I had the letter, I was on my own, and it was a letter in a big envelope, and I thought, oh, what's this? But it said Her Majesty's Service, and I thought, oh Lord, it's a tax bill. Somehow, literally, we've messed up here. Mouth wide open. The first line told you, dear Mrs. Godley, letting you know that we'd like to invite you to receive not an MBE, it was an OBE. So then, and just had to sit there on my own, absorbing this letter, and I literally ended up ringing up Buckingham Palace because I was in shock. I didn't believe it, and they laughed. And you start to think, what were they looking at? What did I do? But I've just worked in the community as much as I can do.
Yeah.
I gave up a big corporate job, company car, a big team, lots of money, because music was still calling me. And I thought, if I don't do this,
if I don't do this now,
when exactly, absolutely. So
that's the conversation I'm discovering for myself. If I don't do this now, when?
Yeah. And you just sometimes need to start, don't you? And I try to plan too much, I think, and I wanted to anticipate every step. What will I do then? Who's going to help me? Where's the money going to come from? What's going to do? All this kind of stuff going on with every project that I've run. But sometimes you just need to start. Have that. There's me. The biggest doubter ever. Just put that first foot forward, and they will come. People will come who've been hiding or just been quiet, waiting for someone else. So yes.
And I bet it was an amazing experience.
Oh, Paul and I, my husband, realised that our lives over the 30 odd years we've been married, we can have loads of long periods where it feels like nothing's happening, just life's going on, but then somehow something happens, a really special thing happens, and then it's like other things happen as well. We get clumps. So for people watching my life, I know, depending on when they're looking, they think, oh, what's her? She's, what's going down with her? There's a lot going on, but they don't see the 6 months of absolutely nothing, and challenges, health things going on, whatever, finance. Going to Windsor Castle, which is where it was, I was terrified. I didn't know if my hat would stay on. I'd got, it's all these crazy things going on. Beautiful castle.
Well, you become a little child.
Yeah.
Worried about the hat or
exactly.
the makeup or the shoes. Yeah.
And you walk in to red everywhere. That's all I could remember. Red walls, red carpets, and red and then gold framed pictures hanging up of the great and good that I didn't know, most of them. But the people who were there with you to escort you just made you feel. I mean, what do you say to someone when they say, we've been waiting for you, welcome?
Stone and Ivy is a brand new restaurant situated within Western Hall Hotel, Bulkington. Conveniently located just a few minutes from the M6 and open daily from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. Enjoy a lunchtime 2-course meal from just £14.95. Devour one of our delicious afternoon teas. Sample our a la carte delights. And don't miss our sellout Sunday lunch. Book online now at www.westernhallhotel.co.uk.
I'm looking for genuine rapport. They tour you around for a little bit, and then you're into this big, it's like a stateroom, and you wait for your moment to be called, and they tell you where to walk into the room, and you can see Princess Anne, and then you're told when to curtsy, and you're told that she will ask you some questions, and then when she's finished, she'll put her hand out to kind of finish the conversation politely. So I'm waiting for the handout after about 1 minute as I'm talking to her, because I'm thinking, is she bored with me? But no, she was incredibly gracious. It was like she was honouring me, and I was thinking, this is the wrong way around.
How do you go back to your life?
It's taking a long time, and it's now 6 months or so. I've been on the floor in the living room in tears, sort of beating the ground, thinking, I can't believe this has happened. It's just a complete shock. And it's taken a while for me mentally to accept it, because in comes imposter syndrome. Yeah. It's still a shock, because it's like that you would put time into looking at my life and decide to honour me with this is one of the most humblest.
Your lifetime.
Following that, you then go to a service of dedication at St Paul's Cathedral again, which rubber stamps. You can't forget it. It's not going away, this thing.
Well, no, it is. You're still moved, because it's a beautiful acknowledgement. Now, you have a remarkable voice. I shared with you that I've been watching lots of YouTube videos and listening to you and your gospel singing. It just gets to my bones. It's truly inspiring. But being a singer and a musician, I would say introvert, but yet very giving woman. Or what is it like to be a woman in the world of men? Because the music industry is still run by men.
And I so hear what you're saying, and it's the cry of it's a silent cry of so many women and young girls that they don't know what to do. Last Sunday, I was privileged to be part of an amazing group of people in Coventry and Warwickshire who put on the first female-fronted band event at the HMV Empire here in Coventry. And so I hosted the event and was able to sing as well. So here we had 6 bands, all led by females. They're so young, these girls. So they're not they've just sort of moved away from, I can't do this, I can't do that. They're just doing it. and I watched these incredibly talented girls supported by men. All the kind of the drummers and the bass players and everything were all male, and these girls just rock the HMV Empire, which is like, at last I felt like I could breathe out. And together as an army, it might be small to start off with, but I see this echoing actually across the world. You've got the Taylor Swifts, you've got people who are just saying, we need to make a change.
We're raising our voice.
We're raising our voices. We don't have to be like men.
No.
We don't have to sing like men. We just be ourselves. And I watched 6 individual girls rock that stage. And this is a stage where the likes of Ed Sheeran, Emily Sandé have all been on. So they, at their age, have experienced that kind of a platform. I think men may feel slightly intimidated. Perhaps it's not been done before. They don't understand how to handle us. And also, sometimes we can come over a little bit maybe aggressive because we're pent up with frustration. This has been a long time, this glass ceiling existed in the music world. And we want to take it, but not by storm, as if to say it's our right. Of course it's our right, but we want to still work with men. We are who we are. Now's the time to do it. And with social media and those digital platforms now available, it makes it so much easier. So it's time for us to stop making excuses, but align ourselves and look after ourselves.
I was speaking to a friend this week, and he was saying, but not all men are the same. I think that there will be a transformation in the world. There will be a time where we go back into, do you know what? There is no gender conversation anymore. There is no race conversation anymore. There's just human. But I think that we're all contributing to that conversation. It doesn't exist right now.
No.
Right now, we're still under the influence.
When you have a multicultural city at your doorstep and 2 universities which are very multicultural, you can see it's starting. Young girls are being influenced by girls from other countries as well. I mean, and so there's a rising up, a kind of confidence, and we're all looking at each other going, shall we? Yeah, let's hold hands and do it together. So, and we've got stories to tell. And it might not suit them, but we're here to stay. And I think our shape's going to be different. I think it's going to be very organic. Yeah, let's hear from all the girls with their passion for creativity, and let's put plans together that help them. But we're different to men. Our hormones kick in. Yeah, that's a major part of why we give up and we die in our gift, etc. Handling all of that, our well-being is different to the guys, particularly if we're the ones looking after kids and being the homemaker. It's different. So we need to accept the fact that the shape might be different, but let's work out how it could be. But include it, yeah, and not make it be a stumbling block. So, I actually look at I don't have periods now, but when I did, it's kind of like I would decide, what gigs to say yes to and what not to, or what preparation I needed to do.
According to the time of the
month. Yeah, and I've been saying this for years because you know what it's like. I mean, I can forget my words. I can forget the band name, members' names. I've done that so many times. The guys don't get it. They may be empathetic, which is brilliant, but it is a huge, huge thing. And girls need to say to themselves, okay, how am I going to handle it? Who do I need to help me get through this? And from the singing comes, interviews and all sorts of things, not just standing on the stage and creating. So how are you going to handle that when you've had no sleep because your child's kept you up, for 5 hours of the night? How can we talk about that in a really positive way and come out with some great results? I think it's there. We just need to be honest.
What I hear from what you say is a lot of empathy, leadership, understanding of who you are and where you are in life. But how would you describe yourself?
What is at the core? So I get to the age that I am now and I'm thinking, who am I? I'm definitely into paying back. I know it might sound a typical answer, but I've got so much to give back now. And so I'm planning my route towards making that happen. Podcasts, interviews, involving different cultures within the music. People who don't have faith, people who do have faith. What other faiths? It's this is me. So it's very much a journey of giving back, but also owning the fact that if I've been honoured with these incredible gifts and medals, that means I can access different spaces. I don't have to apologise. I can form an army of girls, great women around me to actually make some changes. So my kids are a huge influence on me, and whenever they have got concerns, they'll say, Mum, get on with it. We're not around now. We want to see you soar. And I'm thinking, but my back's aching now at this age. I haven't got the energy, but I've got to get fitter. That's one of the things I want to do. And that's going to change everything, my mental health, my well-being, everything. So that's who I am, the person that wants to give back big time. And
so what do you like actually receiving help? I mean, we've heard how compassionate and helpful you are. Can you accept help from anyone?
Yeah, right now, because we're now in this digital age, and I've tried to do a lot of this on my own. I really can't do it. You just can't do it to be who you are.
No, it's impossible.
So,
yeah.
and saying no and then thinking, I regret that, I can't do that anymore. So, yes, I'm accepting far more help from different people who've got the skills that I'm looking for. I think it's more about friendship groups, really. It's a case of who am I walking with?
Who's your network?
Yeah, and that seems to be changing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to be honest, it's not the way I thought it would be. And I've got to protect myself from people who have their own agenda and personal agenda.
Yeah.
And that sounds a bit strange, but even when you receive accolades, you know, it's interesting, those that cheer you on and those that are silent, who were pretty loud before.
Yeah.
And this is the intimate thing for me, that actually I'm growing to learn more and more about friends, who they really are. I think they say that your friendship circle gets smaller the older you get, and I think that one's true.
You know, it's an investment.
Yes.
You invest in friendships.
Yeah. And we talked about my faith. I do pray a lot, but just like a normal person. I'll even pray for which car park I should be going to. And I'm thinking, if I've got a gig, I'll say, oh gosh, God help me choose a great outfit. And I have fun. That's just my dimension. So I'll walk through, and you know, most people might think I'm mad, but that's how I am. That's my real genuine
positive.
faith.
You know, if you're positive about most things, it appears.
It appears.
It appears.
Absolutely. You sort of attract it, don't you? You're like a magnet. So.
Well, I create that as well. I talk about the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I walk on the universe will deliver, and I trust that the red carpet will unfold as I walk. But it's only when walking that it unfolds. If you're static and waiting, it does not happen.
That is so true. And there is a kind of scripture that talks about that.
I'm sure there's a scripture about everything.
But it's kind of like, you know, if God wants to use you, then he can only use you when you started walking. If you're just immovable as an object, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I love that. I absolutely love being reminded of that. So we've got to get up and walk, and then you can be redirected.
But also you start feeling the path.
Yes.
You're present to the path.
Yeah. And I kind of realise that now I'm walking, I'm actually able to suss out a little bit earlier who the fools are. And that is just life. And people might say that about me, but I don't want to waste any time with takers,
the
narcissists, all that. We
all
could go
those
very deep.
narcissists,
So
absolutely.
help me avoid those, please.
Yeah.
I don't want that anymore.
Yeah,
So-
Julia and I speak a lot about that.
Do
this
you?
culture of the makeup,
Yeah.
not the reality.
Yeah.
I find that very shallow and very empty.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I mean, you know, when we were younger, sort of back last century, you know, you put
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, you put your mask on, you put your makeup on to go to work, and no, it's only by realising I don't need to do that I actually found me. You're telling me the same story.
And what is the me that you want to show up?
Yeah.
What is the me that actually inspires others? So what do you see next in your life? We are at an age where we start thinking of what are we leaving behind? What is our legacy? What would people say about Sandra in 100 years' time?
I think we're in an age where does life feel just like it's going so quickly. We're, you know, in this month that I'm in now, I've been so busy, brilliantly busy, but with a lot of last minute requests, which you have to say yes to because they're great opportunities. But I've had to really think about getting better at being organised massively, from project management through to looking after my well-being and getting some sleep. You know, I don't know if you're like me, ladies, that, you know, it's when you go to bed at 10:30, 11 that suddenly these ideas come. So half an hour later, you're more awake and you can't get to sleep. So I've got to deal with all that kind of stuff. But I want to listen more, because in this digital age, so there's a clear need for young girls to meet together, talk about human things as females, from what we were saying before, from periods and handling that with any activity that you're doing, what they want to do with their career. But it feels like they're not talking to each other, they're not talking to their mums and dads. And I found that quite obvious when I was working for the BBC, doing lots of interviews through the pandemic, and you're sitting there as the presenter or you're interviewing them and thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to handle this. I've got to listen really well.
To handle this, you know?
So we as presenters were exhausted, not in a negative way, but just thinking people want to talk where they're not talking to their families, the telephone, or have an interview with a stranger and open up. But I want to create some moments where we can talk together. Young people can get some of the stuff that we've journeyed, ladies, and we just need to give it away. And we can't assume they know.
And it's
they don't.
It's often by, actually vocalising something, get it out there, you can actually see it and deal with it.
Yeah. We need more mamas out there and fathers for young women, absolutely. And they're struggling, some of them, with their identity. Who am I? What am I doing? And like I mentioned before, some way of celebrating the achievements, getting a certificate or an award to say that someone's recognised what you've been doing, and hopefully that propels you to do more. Accolades work at this present moment, and if that's a way of actually getting into a conversation, getting into their world as young people, then I want to do that as well. And do things like this podcast just to talk and be talked to as well. It's not just me.
Love that. Sandra, it's been a pleasure to have you. It's amazing how fast time flies.
I know.
But we just got to the end. Thank you so much for playing with us.
Oh, thank you. I've loved playing with you, ladies.
Right, you'll have to come back.
Definitely.
Our thanks to Western Hall Hotel for their support today.
And that is the power of intimate leadership. Thank you for listening.